On the holistic integrative front, it sounds simple now that, I say it 9 years later, but you don't know what you don't know a lot of times is you need a holistic slash naturopathic slash integrative slash functional slash whatever whatever catchphrase.
This is Doctor Talks.
Just had an awesome interview with Ryder Sternagel. He is the founder of the Stern Method, and we talked about a whole bunch of things. First, we talked about how to find a practitioner and create a team, and the importance of making sure that you're integrated practitioner, because your conventional practitioner is going to be pretty much the same no matter where you go. So you're going to find a medical oncologist, you're going to find a radiation oncologist, you're going to find a breast surgeon, you're going to find a plastic surgeon. Like, those people generally are the same for everyone. And that's just a matter of personality. And do you like working with that person? Does that person resonate with you? Does that person hear you? Does that person respect you in your opinion? That kind of thing. But more importantly, finding a holistic, an integrative, a naturopathic, a functional person who you can work with, who is familiar with cancer, who is not intimidated by your cancer diagnosis, who understands the conventional medical world and knows how to make the most of that, because some of you will need conventional medical treatments. We want to make sure that if you're getting those conventional medical treatments, that you are getting the most of those conventional medical treatments. So how to eat, how to supplement, how to support you best through conventional medical care. And that's going to come from someone who is familiar with cancer, familiar with cancer care, and knows how to help you to get the most out of your situation. So we talked about that. Then we talked about the overwhelm of a diagnosis and how it can feel really overwhelming to get information, but now it can also feel overwhelming to try to find the right information, because while it used to be readily available, now it is not so much. And it's difficult to find studies, and it's difficult to find what is right for you. And the importance of really trusting that relationship that you have with your holistic doctor, with your integrative doctor, with your naturopathic doctor, with your functional medicine doctor, trusting that they are going to guide you in the right direction for you, because we are all bio-individual, because the right thing for someone else is not necessarily the right thing for you, but also dialing into your intuition. If you have thoughts or feelings about something, and this is happening again and again and again, then maybe that is something that's right for you. And so being able to dial into your intuition, trust your intuition, that's so very important. We talked about the fact that Ryan was very fortunate in being able to build his own house and build a non-toxic house, but not everyone is in that situation. And the things that you should be thinking about in your house are things, I mean, certainly everyone knows to think about food and to eat organic food and to drink clean water. But what are you cleaning your house with? And what is your house made up of? What is the paint like? Do you have pressed wood like in your cabinets or on your floor? Because that is off-gassing. Insulation, furniture, cabinets, your pillow, your mattress, all of these things will be off-gassing and you're breathing them in. So he mentioned making sure that you're changing the filter on your furnace, that you are minimizing the EMF, that you're using safe paint, and that you are conscious about the Wi-Fi. And we talked about some low-hanging fruit and using non-toxic paint, but using an air filter, having a ceiling fan, changing your furnace filter, opening your windows. Think about things that you're doing a lot. You're breathing all the time, right? So making sure that your air quality is good. And then turning off your Wi-Fi as much as possible, not just when at night when you sleep, but as much as possible. If you're not using the Wi-Fi, it should be off. And keeping your cell phone in airplane mode most of the time. We don't need to be available all the time. So it was a brilliant discussion, and I really hope that you tune in and listen to it all. It's Dr. Jen. Bye for now.
Welcome back to the Breast Cancer Breakthrough Summit. I'm your host, Dr. Jen Simmons, and our next guest really has had a life-altering experience that I don't wish on anyone, but he has taken that experience and contributed so much to the world and to his community that I always say that things happen for a reason, and I know that this led him to his life's purpose. Next, we have Ryan Sternagel with us. He is the founder of the Stern Method, the Anticancer Revolution, and Going Integrative Plus, which is a platform for informing and inspiring families, preventing or reversing chronic disease to succeed on all fronts. So Ryan, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. And I don't know if you have gratitude for the reason that you're here, but I would love it if you would share your story on how you came to be in the cancer space and the integrative medicine space.
Yeah, that's always, I think about that a lot. Am I grateful for the horrible thing that led to the awesome things that have come of it? I can't, I can never say that I am grateful that my son was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. That's what led us to, what led us to do everything we do today is, 11 days before his first birthday, our son Ryder was, diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. It's a cancer of the nervous system, mostly a childhood cancer. So we had a huge lump inside of and growing out of his spine and a couple secondary tumors and metastasis to the bones and all that fun stuff. And fast forward, we did all the things that you're talking about on this event and, fought with / navigated the conventional medical system and navigated the holistic medical world and figured out how to, make our way between the two and all those sorts of things, and moved states along the way because we weren't getting along with the conventional team. And built a non-toxic house along the way from the ground up because we were super paranoid about environmental toxicity, which I guess, when your child is born with cancer, that's probably to be expected. But so, fast forward, gosh, 9+ years now. Ryder's doing great. He's the healthiest kid I know, and healthiest and happiest kid I know because he lives out in the middle of the woods in our peaceful little compound we built with his chickens and a greenhouse and horses and donkeys and probably forgetting a few animals in there. And which all came of us doing everything we could to heal him and create the ultimate healing environment for him. And now, for the past several years, it's been our full-time mission to get to, talk about health stuff and work with different doctors and do stuff with our podcast and our membership group and social media stuff and website stuff and video stuff and all that stuff. And it's been, so, I mean, I'm living, couldn't picture a better existence, what I get to do every day now. But it came at the cost of great suffering and, not even well, it was, of course, our suffering, but, if I could go back and erase what he went through, I would in a heartbeat, but that's
Of course,
not the way it works.
Of course you would. But the truth is that it really led you down a completely different path. I mean, what were you doing with your life before? Because you're doing this full time now. You're guiding people full time now.
No, I was an outside sales guy for a commercial energy savings company. Well, it actually wasn't a bad job, but it was, didn't have a lot of meaning in it. And I was, listening to health podcasts and stuff like that at the time. And even thinking, man, it'd be cool to be one of those guys. Funny how the world works out. Yeah.
Funny how the world works out. So I want to be clear that you do not come from a health background, and all of your education really came with Ryder's diagnosis.
Yeah, we were certainly, I would say when before Ryder was conceived, we started saying, hey, let's eat more organic food. Let's get rid of, let's get rid of chemical cleaning products. Let's, started taking EMF, electromagnetic fields, and Wi-Fi and stuff like that more seriously. So we were
So
headed.
that's pretty intuitive. How did you come to that conclusion and perspective?
If I'm being 100% honest, listening to conspiracy type podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Finding out how we're being poisoned and all
But
that.
it resonated with you, right?
Yeah.
And we all have the ability to hear all of these things, but we're not open to them. Right?
Yeah.
But something allowed it to resonate with you.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that I was never too married to any preconceived notion, that I've always been open to new information and letting that new information take me where it does. Also extremely blessed that my wife, Teddy, who, does this together with me, and, was that we were obviously locked arms in the journey and all that, but yeah, I mean, she's the same way, and it's really neat that we were, we'll get in arguments about really dumb little things, but when it came to like the big, life changing, really big decisions, after your son gets diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and even before, when we were, like you said, starting to make these life changes, really blessed that we found each other to go through this for our son, because we were always on the same page with everything. And always breaks my heart when we get so many parents, and even just, couples that one of them has been diagnosed with cancer, or their child has been diagnosed with cancer. And, one of them wants to go the holistic route and the other just wants to listen to the conventional doctor, or, not even just the pure holistic route. We're not a no conventional medicine at any point, dogmatic kind of conventional, conventional people either. But yeah, they go the holistic integrative route versus the pure conventional route. And it's heartbreaking when two sides of that couple can't come to the same conclusion. And 95% of the time, it is the woman that, probably because you all have the better intuition, that wants to go the holistic / integrative route, and it's the man that wants to, shut up and listen to the conventional doctor. So, yeah.
I think that scenario happens way more than we're actually appreciating. I don't mean the man and woman part. I mean the discordance between what to do, that the patient, the person that is kind of dealing with the diagnosis, has one notion, and the family or the friends or whoever their support is, whoever their community is, they have a different opinion. And it's a really noisy time. So I want to start off by how do you coach people on how to find a practitioner? Because that is one of the main things that people face when they get a diagnosis, is who's going to help me? Who's going to guide me? Who's going to take care of me? Who's going to lead me?
Yeah. And on the, on the noisy time and all that, it's always heartbreaking when it's the patient themselves that doesn't want to listen to any new ideas. And, well, it's heartbreaking either way, but it's sad because, maybe it's the wife or the husband or whatever that wants to see their partner do all they can for themselves. And yeah, so I mean, assuming you're open to going the integrative, holistic, don't leave any options off the table route, which, if you're watching this event, then you're either open to it or already heading down that path. Good job.
Or you're curious.
Yeah.
Or you're curious, right?
Yeah. But like I always say, I mean, you got the conventional team that is the conventional team that you were kind of, you went to whatever doctor you went to when things weren't feeling right, and then they referred you to whatever, hospital or oncology clinic or whatever it was that, that you eventually got the diagnosis through. And now through no kind of really deep dive research of your own, that's your conventional team, which, they may be fine or they may not be fine. There's the standard of care that a lot of them follow. And so you're kind of going to get the same thing no matter where you go to an extent. But then there are conventional guys that, even though they're conventional guys, they still think for themselves. They still treat you like an individual. Maybe they're not utilizing every tool in the holistic toolbox that we're talking about on this event here, but yeah, at least they're willing to treat you like an individual. Hear your concerns. Maybe, that was our thing, is we were not getting along with the conventional team that we first had. And it's a lot harder for parents of a child to get a new team, because that means pretty much moving states, because there's one hospital per per state that
there aren't a lot of pediatric hospitals.
Yeah, that sees children with cancer. So I mean, that's what we did, is we moved states. But for for the vast majority of people watching this,
I think your point is valid in that you describe it as not getting along, but it's not being heard.
Yeah.
Right. It's so very important to be heard by your physician, and they have to respect your opinion.
Yep. Yeah. And so even, like I said, I mean, they're not gonna have every holistic tool, and they won't know about a lot of stuff, but they should hear you, and they should be open to integrative stuff. That's, the team we eventually landed on said, I know you guys are doing all that stuff. I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure there's merit to it, and good job, doing your research. And that's who you want on the conventional side. And for adults dealing with themselves, it's, you've got your pick of oncologists, pretty much no matter where in the country you are. So you can, you can shop around and find a good one on that front. And then on the holistic integrative front, it sounds simple now that, I say it 9 years later, but you don't know what you don't know a lot of times, is you need a holistic / naturopathic / integrative / functional / whatever catchphrase that particular doctor wants to go by. And there are valid differences, but somebody that utilizes natural medicines alongside conventional stuff. But not just that, you need one of those type of practitioners, a functional MD or naturopathic doctor, maybe a really well-trained herbalist, something like that, but somebody that actually specializes in cancer, because there is a world of difference between the kind of generalist naturopathic doctor that happens to be in your residential area, that helps people with their gut issues or whatever it is, and a functional medicine doctor or a naturopathic doctor. Naturopathic doctors that specialize in cancer usually go by naturopathic oncologist. World of difference between just your everyday functional medicine doctor, your everyday naturopathic doctor.
Can you talk about some of those differences?
Well, I mean, cancer is just, I like to say, if you can heal cancer, you can heal anything else. So those tend to be if you've taken the time to really know all there is to know about healing cancer, then all there is to know about healing most things, right? Because I mean, there's a viral component, there's a bacterial component, there's an emotional component, there's a spiritual component, there's a toxicity component, there's a gut, all of you got to figure out all those things, right? And pretty much fix them as fast as you can all at once in a cohesive, strategic manner. So but I mean, so there's you pretty much have to fix everything all at once. Mitochondrial defects, the list goes on and on. But then, a good one, like I said, is going to know a whole lot about how to work alongside whatever conventional medicine you're going through as well, be it chemo, radiation, surgery, immunotherapy, checkpoint inhibitors, all that stuff, right? And they're going to know what natural therapies will work well with every specific type of chemo, and not only, twofold, make that chemo work better, and protect your organs from the specific damage that chemo does, be it neuropathy or wiping out your gut, or, whatever. They all have their kind of different particular side effects, so that, a really good naturopathic oncologist or a functional medicine doctor specializing in cancer is going to know about all that stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, even, conventional medicine aside, there's, there's a whole lot of different types of cancer. All those types of cancer are not the same. And there's, of course, you'll hear from a naturopathic doctor, well, you just treat the person, not the disease, right? And there's, of course, that's the fundamental approach you should be going by. But there are still very real differences between, a tumor in your colon and leukemia, and the way you should approach those things.
Yeah. Right. And the timeline is different. The timeline really matters to people. And I think the familiarity with what cancer is, what is traditionally used, and just being comfortable with cancer, because there are a lot of functional medicine doctors, naturopaths, integrative practitioners that are not terribly comfortable with cancer. And that makes a difference.
Yeah. And, a lot of them will, I respect the ones that say, I don't take cancer. I have, it bugs me when I see, and I hear about it happening all the time, where somebody says, oh, I already had a relationship with my naturopathic doctor, and they've only, maybe they saw one cancer patient in the past, but they said they'd be willing to step up to the plate and help me through it. And it's like, no, that's the wrong, you need somebody with decades of cancer specific experience. That's who you need. Yeah.
So while we're talking about that, who do you think should be on your team? Like when you're building a team, what are the important components to you?
Yeah, I mean, we just listed off the primary two, right? Your conventional oncologist and your primary cancer specializing naturopathic or functional medicine doctor. And the nice part about that is, these days, I like to say that's the one good thing that came out of COVID is as telemedicine restrictions got vastly loosened, to where, most conventional and functional naturopathic, whatever doctors, they couldn't really practice across state lines. That's pretty much been obliterated these days. And, so you've got your pick of, you can find the cancer, the best specializing cancer doctors in the country. And then you got your pick of all of them. And then, so that kind of depends on, if your cancer specializing doctor is in it does happen to be in your area, and you can go to their clinic, then, great. But if not, I would say the next thing you look for is a clinic in your area, functional medicine, naturopathic, whatever clinic in your area. Could be, at one of those kind of more generic naturopathic doctors I was talking about. It could be a chiropractor's office. It could be, there's more and more just kind of functional clinics with IV bars and stuff like that popping up. But somebody that's got, the ability to administer IV nutrient therapies, somebody with, cool toys like 10-pass ozone machines, or the new kid on the block with ozone therapy is EBU. But yeah, so somebody with those types of therapies in their office, to where, yeah, they don't need to be your quarterback on the holistic side. You just need to find somebody that can administer, whatever IVs or various therapies that your quarterback might recommend is a good thing for you at this stage in your journey.
Yeah. And I think the things that you mentioned are really applicable. Ozone, IV vitamin C, mistletoe. There are a number of things that really do lend to better outcomes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, don't get me on the soapbox there. You just go on PubMed and type in vitamin C and cancer, or ozone and cancer, or something as simple as curcumin and cancer, and, see the thousands of studies, and then tell me there's no research behind any of this stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of which, what do you recommend in terms of, do you generally tell people to work with a nutritionist, or are they getting that information from their functional medicine doctor?
I would say it depends. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of some doctors will have kind of a nutritionist on staff, others will not. And, I would go under the, my friend Chris Warwick, who, is a well-known kind of cancer food personality, not just food, but I'm thinking of him in this food context. His catchphrase is, flood your body with nutrition, right? So
Yeah, Chris
all
was on here.
oh, he's on that. Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
good. Yeah, that's kind of the baseline, right? You find out that sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts is good for you, and beta carotene from carrots is good for you, and apigenin from celery is good for you, and you can even go on PubMed and just type plants against cancer, and there's a few just kind of listing study. I mean, so you see all the it's easy to find kind of the
Yeah.
anti-cancer foods, and you juice the heck out of them. If you eat as many salads as you can, for some of the harder, like cruciferous vegetables, broccoli and cauliflower and stuff like that. And pretty much anything that kind of takes some processing power. There's the all raw people. But lately I've been gravitating towards kind of the Gerson therapy approach was and is to juice like crazy, because then you're flooding your body with that nutrition. But then to actually in any more like kind of solid meals like that, actually cook or my favorite, steaming or pressure cooking,
Mhm.
because you're only losing about, maybe 10, 15, 20% of the nutrients,
Yeah.
but you can eat like 5 times as much if you if you steam them or pressure cook them. So you're still coming out ahead there.
Yeah.
And if you're going through cancer, your digestive system is probably compromised, almost certainly compromised, because pretty much everybody's digestive system these days is almost
Mhm.
certainly compromised. So you're not, you're expending a lot of energy to digest that stuff. Whereas, if you make things as easy to digest as possible, then your body's energy can not be going so much to digestion. It can be going towards rest and repair and healing and your immune system and all that stuff. So, I mean, there's kind of the basics, but as far as it's a good idea to bring on a cancer specific nutritionist if one is not provided to you through your doctor, or you don't feel like ask your functional doctor, right? Your naturopathic doctor. Are you the guy to give me the cancer specific nutrition advice, guy or gal? Or should I be seeking that out somewhere else? And either answer is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then add on the auxiliaries from there, right? It's a good idea to see a chiropractor to get your spine and all that stuff straightened out, because your nervous system's connected to your spine, and that's a big part of your immune system, and just the way your body talks to each other, so it talks to itself. So yeah, go see a chiropractor every once in a while. Go find your local acupuncturist and get your meridians cleared and all that fun stuff, and find we worked with a couple different woo-woo type energy workers along the way, and really profound things happened working with those energy workers that energy healers, whatever you want to call them, people that don't even have to be in the same room as you and can use their mind and the way energy is connected throughout the world, and they can tap into that a little better than a thick-headed guy like me can, and do some, I mean, really, really, really amazing, like that there's no way this was a coincidence type stuff happened working with those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you get your main quarterback on the integrative side, you get your conventional guy, figure out whether what therapies you have in your area that you have access to. And yeah, chiropractor, acupuncturist, energy worker, those would be good additions from there. And then I always do like to say as well, when we talk about therapies and ozone, and a lot of chiropractors and functional doctors and stuff like that will have PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic fields, and
Mhm.
in their office, and hyperthermia, sauna, things like that, right? And a lot of these things people pay, either will pay $100, couple $100, few $100 a pop at a clinic, or they'll pay 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 bucks to go to, one of those all-inclusive places in Mexico. And there's a time and a place for those places. Don't get me wrong, but I like to see how much you can do at home. How much, it's a bit of an investment to get an infrared sauna. It's a bit of an investment to get yourself an ozone generator, bit of an investment to get yourself a good PEMF, either mat or, there are a few different types of devices that you can get with PEMF, but those are kind of my big three. And, you pay $1,000 or a couple $1,000 for them at one time. And then you have them to use every day for the rest of your life, which is a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. And then there's that as well. Figuring out how much of the healing you can bring in home and not even need to go to, I wouldn't go giving yourself IVs unless I've heard of people doing that, getting really adventurous.
I've heard of people doing that too. It's kind of crazy, but let's dive into that a little bit, because people often criticize the integrative side of it as being very expensive. So how can you do this in an affordable way?
Yeah. And of course, you have to note that it's only expensive because it's out of pocket, and the chemos and everything are, you're only getting the petroleum-based pharmaceuticals covered by insurance.
Yeah, they'll cover the poison, but the healing is on you.
Less and less covered by insurance these days. It's you're not even getting really anything for free on the free in quotes on the conventional side anymore. People's copays are going up, and out of pocket minimums and all that stuff. It's getting crazier and crazier. So yeah, and then those prices are artificially inflated and so on and so forth. So as far as the actual sticker price of a bottle of supplements versus a bottle of pills, or a quote unquote more expensive therapy like IV vitamin C versus the IVs of chemo they give you, which the sticker price on those is thousands every time.
Yeah,
it's really not more expensive. It's so there's no that it shouldn't be. The conventional people will criticize, will use that as a criticism, but in all reality, it's just the fact that the system is extremely warped towards the conventional stuff. But yeah, that being said, it is what it is, and you do have to pay for this stuff, or you do have to find a way to obtain this stuff one way or the other, and it does add up, especially on top of all the the regular medical bills and things like that. And there's never been a more applicable use of the worn out, where there's a will, there's a way mantra. But that was what my wife and I, we knew whatever it was, whatever new supplement or therapy or consultation or all those things, whatever we felt strongly that we needed, whatever we were advised by the people we felt strongly that we trusted that we needed, we did make it happen. And a few of the ways we made it happen were, I think a lot of people get there's a mixture of pride and insecurity in being able to ask for help or even receive help. Right. And I think that was our biggest thing. Is we were, talking about earlier about not being married to, preconceived notions of how the world works and being able to change our worldview and all that pretty easily. We were pretty easily able to throw the pride and then the insecurity out the window, because it was literally a life and death situation. So,
and it was your child.
Yes, it was our child. So would you rather be too proud to ask for help, or would you rather have the, that new ozone generator, infrared sauna, or consultation with the doctor that's going to recommend help you cut through the zillions of different supplements out there you can choose from, and, to figure out what makes the most sense for your specific situation. No, we wanted that. So, that's the big mindset shift right there, is just, don't be ashamed of your story, and don't feel like you need to, hunker down and just keep it to yourself, and you can get through this on your own. I always prided myself on being able to, be very self-reliant, not really need help from anybody. But in this case, he just the more help, the better. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we used our story wherever we could in asking for discounts on things. I don't know how many heartfelt letters I wrote to supplement companies, to, there was a little organic grocery store in town that, I let them know what was going on. And, we were having trouble affording all the produce for juicing. And next thing you know, we're getting all of their bulk produce at their cost, which was
Mhm.
awesome. Now
Amazing.
I've got
Human
the
kindness can really be tremendous,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But your point is well taken in that you have to ask.
you got to ask. Yeah. And you got to be sincere too. You can't just say, can't just a little two sentence, I have cancer, can you give me some money, or can you give me a discount or whatever. It's got to be,
Right.
because people are getting hit up for stuff all the time. But you can make your little template of, your concise but heartfelt story in the middle, and then kind of change it based on the situation. So I mean, yeah, just asking for discounts all over. I mean, and that I just mentioned supplements and organic food and stuff like that, but I mean, your rent from your landlord, or your cell phone bill. Call your cell phone company and say, hey, I just got diagnosed with cancer. I gotta cancel unless you guys can, cut my bill in a third or a half or something like that. And they won't do it out of the kindness of their heart. They'll do it to, keep you as a customer. But
It's okay,
yeah,
right?
that's fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just where I look at every possible facet of, you spending money, and ask, how can your story help you in that money? And then, the flip side, we were really big with just putting everything we were doing out there on. Not everybody likes to, put their life story on social media and stuff like that, but the online fundraiser thing really does help, especially if you, stay consistent with posting your stuff. Don't get like obnoxious about asking for money all the time, but just post about, your journey in general and what you're doing. And hey, here's me getting, IV infusion. Cool. Here's me juicing, whatever. And, just, remind people you've got a fundraiser to afford this stuff. We got, I don't know how many, multiple $1,000 donations from people that we had never met before.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just if you put yourself out there, if you're genuine about it, you will resonate with, the right type of people, and the universe will provide. And I did woo-woo stuff like that as well, just visualizing goodness and resources
Yeah.
coming to. That was part of my morning routine every morning, was just asking the universe, not even asking, just knowing the, whatever, summoning the help from the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I often encourage people to be really specific, like, I need a sauna, right? Universe, please send me a sauna. And it works. It does.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about, there are many times, and I'm sure you remember this, where it's just so overwhelming. You're in information overload. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's not true. There are so many different opinions, differing opinions, and not to mention, you don't kind of know what's true for you. So how do you help people or advise people to sift through the information?
Yeah, I would, more and more, I circle back to that holistic, integrative, functional, whatever doctor that specializes in cancer, right? Because I mean that, and now that I've gotten to talk to so many of them, I used to, and I still do, but especially in the beginning, I used to pride myself on how many studies I could, stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning reading on PubMed and blog articles and podcast episodes. And I mean, and inform yourself and take in a bunch of information, and especially, because the more information you take in, the more commonalities you're going to hear. And, you're going to get at least the basics of what you need to be doing. That's going to come to you. But then as far as, choosing these 10 supplements versus those 10 supplements, yeah, it's, I with all I know, or with all I've learned in 9 years, which, the more you learn, the less you realize you really know, however that saying goes. I can read 50 studies, or I can ask, one of my trusted naturopathic oncologists, hey, what do you think about this? And the answer I get from them will be far more profound and, evidence-based and experience-based than anything I'm getting, no matter how many studies I read. So there's that.
I
Again,
also
so find
truly
that.
believe that there is data to support whatever you want to believe.
Yes. And then, there's, you can work your way to any fairly logical conclusion. I think post 2020 taught us that better than any of us ever could have imagined, that people can come to wildly different conclusions based on available data out there. Right. But
and I
but
think
that
that is another problem in this space, is that you can do a lot of research, but the truth isn't always very evident, because I think the narrative is being highly controlled. This is my conspiracy theory. I think that the narrative is being highly controlled, and the outlets in which most people are searching, they simply cannot get the information that they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's a sad reality today. Is, I mean, even, it's like DuckDuckGo is better than Google, right? No, it's not. As far as like, finding good natural health information, the internet today is a very different place than it was 9 years ago when my son was diagnosed. The Truth About Cancer, that docuseries, kind of that series of docuseries, the first one just aired, I think, like 2 weeks after my son was diagnosed. So we were sitting there with pen and paper, just taking notes and writing everything down. And then it became really popular to blog about alternative cancer stuff because of the success of that series. And so you had the internet was just awash with all sorts of, wild alternative cancer stuff. And that was like real information overwhelm, right? Because we were trying to, piece between all of these different alternative protocols out there and stuff like that. And you search for, alternative cancer stuff today, even on somewhere like DuckDuckGo, and you're getting articles by Memorial Sloan Kettering and Harvard and, all these places that say they give you a little sprinkling of, there's some research behind it, but it's probably not worth your time, or, maybe do it, or, whatever. So it's the information overwhelm is almost information underwhelm these days, which, it highlights the need to work with a naturopathic or functional medicine doctor that specializes in cancer even more. But, that being said, it's still a flood of information. You're still getting your friends, you're still reading the blog articles, you're still listening to podcasts, all that stuff. I always, outside of the doctor thing, you've got to actually make friends with your intuition and let that be. I mean, I would even let my intuition be the guide, kind of, they talk about like automatic writing and just letting the words flow through you or whatever. It was almost like automatic clicking, like, on PubMed studies and stuff like that. Just where's my intuition like taking me right now? And, we've got a pretty neat membership group. I just talked about this the other day. There's a gal that she asks, we get a different doctor on every week, and you've been on the call, Dr. Jen, but she asked like every doctor about this one particular kind of obscure supplement. And finally, just the other day, I was like, it's, if you're asking every doctor about it, it seems like your intuition is, it's your body, your mind, the universe, whatever is probably telling you that's the supplement you need. And I don't know if I would ask any more doctors about it, their opinion about it. I would just take that supplement. You know what I mean? So yeah. And I mean, we've been trained to, in this, talk about the Western mindset versus Eastern mindset, or conventional mindset versus holistic mindset, or whatever. But we've been trained to just, there's got to be science, and there's got to be you've got to find the thing with the best science behind it. And
like a double-blinded, validated study.
Yeah. And while
Prospective.
there's certainly, there's a place for that in the holistic world as well. And then you can get into all the stuff about how, a supplement company can't afford a double-blind study like a multi-billion-dollar drug company can, all that stuff. But even still, it's, even if they all could, they, all come out with
risk profile is not the same,
Yeah, I mean,
So when you're talking about a pharmaceutical and you're bringing it onto market, there are real reasons to have to do that extensive research. And it's because along with every single one of those drugs is going to come side effects. And some of them are going to be really, really serious.
yes,
And, kind of the worst thing that will happen to you if you take too much vitamin C is that you're going to get diarrhea.
spend a little more time than you bargained for on the toilet. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the stakes are so much higher, which is why studies like that are so important in the pharmaceutical space, but they don't generally apply. I'm not going to tell you that there aren't supplements that don't pose any danger to someone. Of course, there are. But by and large, the risk profile is not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, and that being said, they could all have, even if they did all have double blind studies, I'm sure that there'd be hundreds of supplement companies that if they had the resources to do it, then there's going to be hundreds of supplements with like really interesting, compelling double blind studies
Mhm.
that would come out, and you'd still be left with the same issue of choosing between all of these different supplements, right? So again, it's, trust your cancer specializing naturopathic or functional medicine doctor, but then, they're going to say, here are the things that, you should absolutely take. And here are the things that, maybe there are a couple, supplements that don't get along well with cancer. So they'll tell you about those, or at least, questionable
Or
research
I,
and
I
that sort
hope
of
I
thing.
hope they tell you about them,
Yeah,
right?
which again, your generic naturopathic doctor probably is not going to know about, but your cancer specific one is. But yeah, and then it's they kind of say whatever your budget allows. I'm not going to tell you not to do that supplement you're interested may well be great for you. It sounds great. It looks great. I know about it. So yeah, in that case, it's you've got to just going back to the woo woo opening yourself up to the universe stuff, but the more you can let your intuition guide you on that stuff, and actually not just pay lip service to it, but really it takes some practice, and it takes some, you've got to be really intentional about it at first, but the more you can just kind of open yourself up to, the answer is somewhere within you, because yeah, going back to everything's connected and we all share the same energy, and you can get all, esoteric with it and whatever. But yeah, you do have access to the answer of what's best for you. And the more you can just open yourself up to that and let your intuition actually be the final decision maker on things. I mean, my wife, I'm actually more into like, geeking out on different energy medicine stuff and energy workers and reading weird esoteric books and stuff like that. And I think it's to compensate for the fact that, my wife is not as into all that stuff. And it's because she has a way better intuition than I do. And, I'm trying to hack my way there, but we always let her intuition was actually always the final decision maker. And whenever we went with that, we were so glad we did. And whenever we, logicked our way into going against her intuition, 100% of the time we regretted it. So yeah.
Listen to your wife.
Listen to your wife. End of interview. Yeah.
So before you spoke about building a non-toxic house, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess kind of part of the discovery process when you take a look at your life, either, hopefully before you get diagnosed with cancer, but definitely after you get diagnosed with cancer, and you start picking things apart, and you start realizing, you start like I mentioned, right? It's like, oh, I've been eating conventional food that has this glyphosate pesticide on it that's, linked to cancer, and it's poking holes in my gut and all that stuff. And, cleaning with these endocrine disrupting chemicals, and I'm getting all these heavy metals from various sources, on and on and on, right? That unfortunately applies to buildings and homes themselves, and most of the things in buildings and homes. Yeah, I mean, the pressed wood, be it particle board or plywood, that is off-gassing formaldehyde for years and years and years, along with various other VOCs. The paint that's used is off-gassing. The insulation is off-gassing. Your couch is off gassing, your chair is off gassing, your cabinets, again, those are pressed wood, they're off gassing. Everything's off gassing, right? And
Mattress.
yeah, your mattress, right? And that's another thing I talk about, like the do I spend 30 grand to go to an all-inclusive clinic in Mexico or not? And I mean, if you have like 30,000 extra dollars, go for it, get that turbo boost. But if you're going to spend every last penny on that clinic and then come home to the mattress that is off and pillow that's off gassing formaldehyde into your face every night as you sleep, yeah, I would get yourself that organic mattress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
So
Thinking about the things that you do most, right? Like you sleep on your pillow and on your mattress for hopefully like 7 or 8 hours every single day, right? So that's really meaningful.
yeah, and so it's I don't know. I mean, you don't, not everyone's going to go to the extremes we did, but we got, and then there's the electromagnetic fields thing, right? Your Wi-Fi, cell phone towers, the cell phone in your house. So we went to the extreme of finding a piece of land removed enough from its civilization, but still close enough to civilization that we can get to the, because we were still going to the hospital pretty frequently then. So we kind of found a best of both worlds type situation that wasn't still too far from, the major cities and all that stuff. But at the same time, we could, we don't have a lot of close neighbors. And so, yeah, the property didn't have any electromagnetic field readings on our geeky little meter. And we worked with a building biologist that's again, there are a couple like green, well, then you got to be careful with people using the word green, because that's, that can be all marketing there too. But
a lot of greenwashing out there.
Yeah, a lot of greenwashing out there. But I guess that's the term you want to look for is building biologist. And that's, if you're doing a remodel, or if you're building a new house, then it's great to work with a building biologist. But they can even consult on, on what you can do to improve your existing environment. But again, it's kind of that mindset. Like once you realize that like the default choice with everything is going to be toxic, be it food, or be it medicine, or be it, your living environment, then you just kind of have to look at everything in a new and say, and especially as you're considering purchasing something new, could this be toxic or not? And, a simple exercise is just popping into a search engine, toxic silverware, and what do you know? You can get crappy silverware that's going to be leaching heavy metals into your food, or you can get high quality silverware that's not going to be doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a really good educational opportunity every time you're thinking about buying something new. But I mean, a couple, everybody should have an air filter in their house, right? Because not just one air filter. You just start your air filter collection, right? We started with just one, and we'd have it in Ryder's bedroom, and then we'd move it out to the living room, and then we finally were able to afford another one, and then he could have one in his bedroom, and he could have one in the living room. And 9 years later, we've got like air purifier kingdom in our house, and there's air purifiers everywhere. But yeah, I mean, that's going to mitigate a lot of it. Having a fan, having your ceiling fan running, change your furnace filter. There's if you're like most people, you've never opened your furnace one time and you've never had anyone come out and look at it. It just runs. Go pop that bad boy open and take a look at the filter in the thing. And that's what's been circulating throughout your house. So change that thing, keep windows open. There's a paint line out there called Safe Coat. It's AFM Safe Coat. And that line of paints is designed to be not only non-toxic, but actually seal in the off-gassing from all the building materials. So, if it's short of building your own house from non-toxic materials, there's stuff you can do, right? There's non-toxic furniture companies.
Most people are not going to build their own house from scratch and use a building biologist. But what is the low-hanging fruit? Like, what are the things that we should all make sure that we're doing?
Yeah, and that's I was kind of going there with the air stuff, because that's a big one, right? A lot of emphasis gets put on organic food, but think about how many times you eat versus how many times you breathe, right? And you find out that indoor air is, can be 3 to 5 times on average, hundreds of times in many cases, more toxic than even, polluted outdoor, smoggy air. But so yeah, that's kind of the air stuff I just listed off there. Always a good idea, even if you don't think you have a problem, to get a mold inspection, just to be sure. There's, you can find professional mold companies in most areas. There are various mail order type things that you can get.
Yep.
I'm trying out this got mold product right now, where you just take an air
Mm-hmm.
sample and send it to them, and they'll tell you how many mold spores are in your air, that sort of thing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So mold is a really big deal. And then, electromagnetic fields. All I can say is, anyone saying that they're not a big deal, just that they don't know what they're talking about. They just don't. There's so much research out there showing a myriad of problems resulting from electromagnetic fields. And it makes sense. The earth's natural frequency that we've come up with over time is like, it's like 8 something hertz, and now we're talking about thousands and tens of thousands and millions and tens of millions of hertz.
Yeah.
That's just that, right? There's common sense. If you want to talk about logic and common sense, that's not. I mean, we're energetic beings. Everything is firing based off of electricity, and that's why electrolytes are important, because we have electrical bodies, and the electrolytes are conduits or conductors of electricity. So I mean, yeah, we're energetic beings. We're tuned to a specific frequency or specific range of frequencies, and these chaotic frequencies that man-made, thousands and thousands and millions of times more powerful than anything wherever. Of course, that's going to be a big deal. Anyway, that being said, the advice out there on turning your Wi-Fi router off at night, I don't think goes nearly far enough. I think bare minimum is you have it on while you are actively surfing the internet, and then you turn it right back off. That's, I'd say that's bare minimum for us. There's these amazing things called Ethernet cables. They worked really well in the 90s before we had Wi-Fi, and they still work just as just as well. So yeah, I mean, even be, well, actually we don't have the problem now because we don't have internet living in the middle of the woods. That's its own problem, and that's why I have to rent this office in town to come to once a week to do an interview like this. But yeah, I mean, even in our old house, when we had a router, you have to call the internet company usually, and make sure that they remotely disable the Wi-Fi, and they won't know what you're talking about. And you got to make sure that they actually do it and that sort of thing. But that's what we did. We had them disable the Wi-Fi completely, and then we just took Ethernet cables and we plugged the Ethernet cable in, and we ran it up the wall, across the ceiling, back down the wall to, wherever the computer was. And, I had those going throughout the house, and I did it as, it's kind of as neatly as I could up around corners and stuff like that. And it didn't look horrible, and people didn't really notice until we pointed it out. And, and then we never had Wi-Fi on in our house whatsoever. And that's a really big deal. Keeping your cell phone on airplane mode, you don't always need to be reachable 24/7. You know what I mean? Just have it on airplane mode. If somebody needs to get a hold of you, they can, text messages and voicemails are great. You'll get the text message and the voicemail when you turn your phone back on. And it's just, it's mentally better not to be reachable 24/7 and always wondering when someone's going to text you.
I couldn't agree more. Agree more. This has been so great, so useful, so practical. And I think that that's what people really need, especially when they're overwhelmed. They need practical things that are going to make a big difference. So I thank you so much. And to the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry for the reason that you came into this space, but you are really making a tremendous difference for people. And I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
Can you just share quickly what you do and how you help people so that if they want to reach out to you, they can?
Yeah, we've got a lot of things coming down the pike, but for right now, I mean, we put out a lot of great information on our I guess family brand is the Stern Method. Our last name is Sternagel, but that's hard to remember or spell, so it got shortened to Stern. And as you can tell, we kind of methodize or systematize or organize things the best we can, because my wife and I were both not inherently organized type A driver type people, but we realized we needed to get super organized. So that's where the method part comes in. So yeah, I mean, we, our website, social media, we're having fun, having more fun lately on Instagram and Facebook and those types of places, putting stuff out, YouTube, the alternative channels, things like that. And then by the time this goes live, our Anticancer Revolution podcast will be fired back up. It's been on hiatus for way longer than I wish it was. But yeah, we've got a ton of new stuff recorded there. And that's just cancer specific, a whole ton of cancer specific info, kind of like you're taking in here. And that's the Anticancer Revolution. And then the membership I mentioned is our Going Integrative Plus program, where we get a top cancer specializing doctor, holistic, functional, so on and so forth, like Dr. Jen here, and all of her best. I don't even just have any cancer specializing practitioner. I only have the best cancer specializing practitioners on there. And it's just, it's a really fun 2-hour Q&A, and our community members just get to ask whatever they want, because that's, that was kind of one of the most valuable things that we could think of. That would have made a difference in our journey, is just the ability to, like I said, you can go through that, God knows how many studies, but just getting to ask that one question to somebody that's been researching and practicing this stuff for decades every week really makes a big difference. So yeah, that's our Going Integrative Plus program. You can
sure does.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have a trusted guide, because as we talked about, there is a lot of information, there is a lot of noise, there are a lot of opinions, and to be able to have a team that can help you to determine what's right for you is so very important. And you're so integral in that process. So I really thank you for being here today, for doing what you do, and for sharing it with the world.
Right back at you, Dr. Jen.
It's Dr. Jen. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Dr. Talks. We hope today's episode has enlightened and inspired you on your path to optimal health. Each day is a new opportunity to make choices that empower your well-being. For more insights and strategies, subscribe to our podcast and visit our website, www.drtalks.com. Stay connected, stay healthy, and join us next time on Dr. Talks. Real talks from real doctors on the issues that matter to you most.